Good morning, everybody. It's so wonderful to see all of you here. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Djordje Padejski. I'm Associate Director at the John S. Knight Journalism Fellowships at Stanford, and I also teach at Stanford journalism. And so great to see all of you here, and I say hi also to our online audience. It's a wonderful start of this conference. So obviously, it's not a news anymore that we are in a crisis in the media, right? For a number of years or decades now. And many of the panels at this conference will actually tackle some of these various aspects. There are seats here. Various aspects of the crisis going on. But so what do we do at Stanford is really we bring journalists from around the world to kind of work on these various challenges, if you think about, and facing journalism, because many of them are not waiting for legacy organizations to kind of fix everything, and they're building their own newsrooms, ventures, organizations, platforms, models from the ground up. And some of them are together with me today, here our panel, and we'll talk about some of the challenges, but before we do that, I just want to kind of tell you a little bit about, there are more of the JSK fellows, JSK alumni attended this conference, so just want to highlight a couple of them. Hannah Ajakia is founding director of the Facts Matter Nigeria. She's going to be speaking here in Perugia. Sarah Alvarez, founder of Outlier Media. Natalia Antelova, who we just saw before this panel, co-founder of Coda Story. Astrid Meyer, deputy editor-in-chief of German DPA, Paul Radu, co-founder of OCCRP, Anita Zelina, founder and CEO of Better Leaders Lab. Just wanted to say a couple of names before we start. So I'm going to introduce our panelists, and I'll start with a few questions, and then I'll welcome questions from all of you from the audience. So to my further left is Maritza Felix. She's a founder and director of Conecta. Say it, Maritza.
Buenos días.
Buenos días. She's a founder and director of Conecta Arizona. Maritza has been pioneering this model that she's going to be talking about, a community-driven local journalism through Conecta Arizona, which is bilingual and bicultural news organizations for immigrants, leveraging social media, messaging apps like WhatsApp, and also cafecitos, right? Cafecitos, in-person events to deliver news. To my left is Pavla Holcova. She's the founder of Investigace from Prague, Czech Republic. Pavla has worked on various groundbreaking cross-border investigations, exposing corruption, abuses of power across Europe. And along the way, she also built an organization dedicated to this kind of journalism to hold many institutions accountable. And last not the least, Martin Kotynek, founding director of Media Forward Fund, and I'm sure you're going to have pleasure to meet Martin also through various panels. Martin has been a long-time media manager and editor, various outlets in Germany and Austria, and most recently founded Media Forward Fund, an initiative dedicated to strengthening independent journalism through innovation and financial sustainability. And here we are. I'm going to start with the first question, folks, and we've been discussing this in preparation of this panel, and just wanted to ask you, so all of you have kind of broken away from traditional models in journalism. So what was your breaking point? What was the moment when you realized that the existing kind of media structures around you were no longer serving the public or you? And what pushed you to say, okay, enough, I'm going to build something really new?
I can start. Buenos días, Maritza, mexicana, latina, migrante, living in the border with Arizona and Mexico. I used to work at TV station, and you saw my face in those billboards and everything. But I was an immigrant. I got into the US with a work visa, and I was reporting a lot of immigrant communities from a perspective of very detaching myself of the reality they were living. And then I understood when I was working for that TV station that we weren't doing it right and that we needed people who actually live the experience to be telling the story, because it's not just the story that matters, but actually who tells the story as well. So 2020, I became an independent, and at the beginning it was like, yeah, freedom, and then the bills started coming in, and it was like, okay, this is not as fun as I thought. But then during the pandemic, I was working on a documentary, and it was put on pause because of obviously the COVID-19, and then border restrictions. US closed all the non-essential travel to the US, and my family stay in Mexico, and the other way that we could have to communicate with each other was basically WhatsApp and FaceTime. So my mom sending me all this information about baking soda with hot water and lemon is gonna like keep you safe during the COVID pandemic. And it's like, Mom, I don't think that's how it works, but we're Mexican, so we do believe in the abuelita's remedies. So I started doing a lot of fact checking on her. And then I realized it's like, this is why I first started in journalism, and I shrink myself for so long to fit in a table that it wasn't made for me, that I needed to build my own. And I thought that it was just an experiment, that it was gonna last 3 months. And 5 years later, it's like we're a healthy, sustainable news organization where more than 30 people work one way or another. So that was the moment for me.
Well, as you said, I've been editor since, I've been for 10 years, I've been running newsrooms, and this is my dream job. I've started to be a journalist when I was 14, and at some point, you asked about the breaking point, and I could have continued to just run one single news organization and try to move them forward, but as the transformation crisis in media grew larger in the last years, then there was this other idea that I could probably help the whole ecosystem. And so the idea came up, and this was all created together with other foundations, that we would pool together and set up this media fund, which would help news organizations to become more sustainable and to really help them with innovating their business models. So this was the moment when I had to decide, do I stick with one news organization, or do I try to have a larger impact on the ecosystem? And so I did it, and I didn't know what I was doing, because I never started my own company. This was the first time, and you have to do that in Germany, so it's you have to deal a lot with the law and with authorities, but it finally worked. And it's a very different experience from running an organization yourself or being an employee in an organization. That's very different.
Okay, I had a couple of breaking points. I studied journalism. I started my first job at online news, and that was the point when I realized that's exactly what I don't want to do as a journalist. So I became a human rights defender in Cuba. I was working with journalists in Cuba, and one day I was arrested in Cuba together with investigative reporter Pavla, who's running around in Perugia. And we talk about, because we could not talk about the journalists in Cuba, it would put them in danger. We talk about investigative reporting, and I realized, yeah, that's the journalism I would like to do. And so after I came back, and quit the job of being human rights defender in Cuba, I was looking for a company, for a media platform that would do cross-border investigative reporting, and there was none of it in Czech Republic, so I started my own because there was no other solution.
Thank you, guys. So thinking about the sort of like position that you are, you just wanted to do good journalism more, right? I mean, Maritza, Martin, you're a little bit an outlier because you've been like thinking about system thinking, which we do a lot at Stanford, obviously, right? But I'm sorry to break this to you, but you're not a journalist anymore, and right? So and I know that by doing it by myself. Everything I wanted to do in my journalism career was I just wanted to do good journalism and ended up being a founder and creator, right? So it's very different things. So you're not a journalist anymore, you're a founder, you're a fundraiser, right? You're a strategist, you're a brand maker, you're a marketer, you're a web developer.
Yeah, I still haven't decided if it was the worst or the best idea in my life to start organization.
We'll get to that point, Pavla. But so how do you now? Yeah, we'll do some reflection. Okay, we do that a lot. So how do you balance, kind of all these roles that you have to do, kind of staying to your mission that you started, right? And kind of wearing all these various hats or jackets, however you want to take it, and helping sustain that mission. How do you balance all these various roles? Okay, you want to do it?
I don't,
You just want to be so you're still editing, you're still...
If you need to balance so many balls, there are so many balls in the air, you always drop at least 2 or 3, It's just like, first of all, it's really, I don't want to do it, Since I started the company, I am looking for someone who could be the director. And so far, 11 years later, I didn't find anyone. And at the same time, I want to go back to reporting and to be a journalist, but no one wants to hire me, I never received any offer, to really run a team of people, of investigative journalists in a big mainstream media, I would be happy to do it, but didn't come. And at the same time, the team I'm working with, those are amazing people. So at the same time, I don't really want to quit them, let them just, take up the job that I am doing as a director and founder, and I would prefer go back to journalism.
Okay, all the editors in the room, so she's a really great journalist, you should hire her.
I think they will hire you, but you don't want to work for someone else anymore. It's like we're our own boss and the meanest boss that we have ever had, but we work for ourselves. Yeah, I was just a journalist and I was so happy doing the things. And then when you become a freelancer, you tend to pick and pitch the stories that you like to work on. And then you realize that, well, English is my second language. So it was like Spanish, then English, and then funders language that you need to learn if you want to make your thing sustainable. So instead of saying it's like, I want a team because I'm doing this by myself, it's like, I need to build capacity. So it sounds sexier. Is it? Yeah. And then depending on the funding year, sometimes those words, they change. So at the beginning, WhatsApp was very sexy. Then AI was really sexy. Then community engagement was really sexy. And it has been changing. 2025 is the year of survival for us. It's like we live in Arizona. We're immigrants. Just because being who we are, we have a target on our backs. Because we're immigrants, we speak a different language, because we're brown, because we live in the border, because we go back and forward. And realizing how important it is to tell our stories, how important it is actually to see myself, my family, my kids reflected on the information and the news that are not the same things. That's what actually is like, okay, I can write another grant application. I'll make it work and everything. But we have been very lucky that, well, Conecta Arizona wasn't sustainable for 3.5 years. So I was minus $3,000 at the beginning of 2023, I remember. And I was doing this, a fellowship, and I was like, but I need to Conecta Arizona to survive because I love this project and it is so important for me and I really, really wanted to work. But if by the end of this year I don't have like at least like a balance of 0 in my bank account, I cannot keep doing this. And one of my strategies was I'm gonna spend all my kids' money on college fund. Going to every single conference and reunion where people are talking about the community engagement that we're doing, and I'm gonna force them to see, this is what you're talking about. It's like, you're talking about immigrant communities, I'm here, like, see my coffee mugs. It's like, I was trying for them to put a face on the stories, on the project, and it worked. So I remember our first grant that we got, it was Democracy Fund, and it was like, this is a big name, and they're like supporting us. And then they opened a door for us. Oh, and she's in the room, actually, and she's saying hi. But that was the first door that was open to us. And now I can say that we're a healthy financial organization for the next 3 years. We just need to secure an extra one because there are going to be 4, they're going to be very tough. But that's how it works. I don't write stories anymore, as many as I want, but I'm very good at asking people for money now. Like grant proposals is like, yeah, you have to do it.
Yeah, thank you to Democracy Fund. Martin.
The way I see it, I'm not an active journalist right now, but I still consider myself to be a journalist. And it's a little bit, because when you start to run a news organization, when you consider journalism as to be someone who investigates and then writes about it, and when you become an editor-in-chief, you don't do that anymore that often. You don't have time for that. You have to manage the team. So kind of this was a gradual thing for me. And now, of course, when we started the fund, we had to do, like a journalist, we had to do our reporting. Like, how does a fund work? How does philanthropy work? What are the right words to use? And that's very different, because if you're in a big newsroom, you have the capacity. If something comes up, you can just have a team which investigates that right now. We can ask 5 people to look into that. If it's a startup like us with only a few people, it's much harder to react to what's coming up. It's much harder to plan. So that's maybe for me the largest difference. It's not so much not being a journalist anymore, an active journalist anymore, for now. But it's more.
You're still in the denial.
What
yeah.
I'm hoping. But it's more that it's just a very much smaller organization where you have to plan much more in ahead where you go, where you put the capacity at, and where you have to say no to.
This is a good segue. Another thing, I mean, Martin, you have been talking about, what journalistic skills are helpful for, starting some new ventures, and this is great. Maybe we can touch a little bit on that, but also thinking about, what sort of like assumptions as a journalist as you needed to kind of move, kind of leave, like what habits you had that, you intentionally had to leave behind.
For me, it was like, what I'm doing is so cool and so needed that they need to fund this. It's like, are they blind? It's like, we're changing the narrative of the border. And then I realized that, no, I need a mission, a vision, a value, and a strategic plan, a narrative budget, a real budget, the dream budget. There is so many things that I had on my mind that I had to put on paper, that somebody forced me to do so. And I'm really grateful, because now I just copy and paste for all these grants applications. But at the least, it's like, well, this is my North Star. I know where I'm going now, and and it keeps me focused, and it keeps me accountable for the things that I said that I was gonna do. It is very hard, but having a good product, a nice platform, a very interesting investigative reporting that you did, but if you don't have all the infrastructure for success, that's gonna last just a little bit. It's just like I don't know how to say in English, like a luz de bengala, those sparkling things that you buy on New Year's Eve. So if you don't take care of the product that you're building, the news organization that you're trying to get, it's gonna just run off, and everything is gonna be a smoke, and it's gonna be a good memory, but it's not actually going to be something that is going to last.
Well, being a journalist at a large news organization, it's just so many things can take for granted. If a new member of the team comes, someone will take care that there will be a computer and there will be an email address and they will be registered at the tax authorities and stuff like that. And I always took that for granted. They just show up and someone else will take care of all the rest. And now seeing how smaller news organizations have to deal with all of these burden and administrative stuff, I'm not taking that for granted anymore. I know how much work it is, I know how distracting it is, I know how much it costs, and someone has to do it. And it's mostly the founder or someone who runs it. So this is something I really learned from being a journalist at a big organization to moving to a very small organization. I don't take that for granted anymore.
Just simple advice. You need pretty much same number of reporters as people who are actually running the organization. You know, I always thought that you can have like 10 reporters and 2 people, you know, taking care about the money, and that's it. No, it's 1-to-1.
That's such a good point, and having this experience working with many of you is that, you know, first thing when we get that first grant from Democracy Fund, we're going to throw it into the editorial, like 100%, right? So we just want to kind of pay for the journalism. But then along the way, you realize, oh my God, I need all these various roles. I need the business side, I need a marketer, I need somebody who's going to help me with fundraising, right?
The good thing on that note is, like, for example, in the US, there are a lot of organizations that will help you to, like, set up the grant for success for free. There are a lot of, like, immigration attorneys that you need, or, like, for example, when I was decided, should I be a nonprofit or not? Should I be like a for-profit? Should I be an LLC, an S-corp, whatever? The Cornell Law School helped me for free. If I need to trademark something, if I need to get media liability insurance, if I need to get all those things that I never knew that I needed when I was doing this work, there is a lot of like nonprofit organizations that are rooting for you and they want to help you, and they get a lot of money just to help you. So just take advantage of all of those community organizations, because they're gonna make sure that you're not gonna be in trouble. Because, for example, right now, if we get a lawsuit, they will completely destroy us, like financially and everything. So what we need to do is actually just making sure, working with those pro bono attorneys, that we have everything on place.
And we see that in applications to Media Forward Fund, those organizations which are founded by journalists, and then there's maybe no one on the team who actually is really specialized on the business side, or maybe one person, they usually send in weaker applications than those who have, as you said, this 50-50 ratio. Up to a point, when they get much larger, then you can hire more journalists, but until a certain number, you need the similar amount, as you said, and then we see that the applications are way better, and also their business is much more sustainable. But usually journalists, they just tend to hire journalists to write more, but then you need someone to make sure that there is money there, that other people can write more.
Nothing to add? Yeah, good. All right, so I'll start with you then with the next question. And obviously, I started even this panel with thinking about the point where we are, and it feels very much, we discussed this before in our prep, this moment feels like a crossroad on so many ways for startups, for journalism organizations, in terms of the funding and everything what's going on in my home country with USAID. There will be panels talking about that. So thinking about all of that, the shrinking audiences, thinking about unclear business models for media, right? Thinking about the role of tech platforms. What would you say to someone who is now interested in founding something like yours in 2025?
Don't do it. I mean, like, it's I don't know. I would say, like, do you still want to be a journalist? If yes, don't do it.
Thank you.
I'm annoyingly positive. It's like, just do it. There's a lot of people rooting for you. There is a lot of support. When I launched Conecta Arizona, it was May 2020. Obviously, border restrictions. Nobody was like investing in Spanish. It was the Spanish translations in Arizona were awful. AI wasn't that good as it is today. So it was, and nobody was betting on the thing that I did. So this is not a promotional, but I got the JSK fellowship, and for 1 year, I was not worried about the bills, but I was given the space to create, to strategize, to see all the blind spots that I was like, because I never founded anything before. So if you can find one of those places that are gonna pay you to think, there are many fellowships available in the world that might be a good fit for you. Maybe you can realize and prep just to face the many challenges that we cannot right now prevent, or we cannot, because there is every single day there is another crazy thing happening in the world, and we're always reacting. So I think you need that space before funding something to be proactive. This is what's gonna happen. This is how we can actually confront that, and just look for it. I think more than ever, we need local journalism that is doing a good job, because it's time for us to amplify the local narrative and not just land the national narrative in our local communities. So we need to start doing this from ground up and not just taking everything for granted. You can be the one setting the agenda now. And I think that's very, very needed. And that's an act of courage right now in this year.
Yeah, just wanted to jump in before, Martin, you respond. Also, I know that this panel is framed around journalism entrepreneurs and what we are discussing here. Our program is not actually only to support this kind of model, so this is one of the models, right? So I don't want anyone here to get a wrong idea that we're supporting journalism entrepreneurship. We do, but it's just a one way to think about the JSK Fellowship. So just wanted to put that out there. So yeah, but for example, Pavla, you were a fellow last year, so you were already in kind of leading the organization. So it was not you did not get the fellowship to kind of start your organization and things like that. Or Martin, you were at Stanford in 2014, long time before you started something new. So just wanted to put it out there, because a lot of people are having these assumptions that we're an incubator for journalism entrepreneurs. We're not. We're having various models that support journalism and journalism leadership, journalism diversity, journalism all kinds. So.
Yeah. At that point when I did it, it was entrepreneurship, leadership, and innovation.
Exactly.
I think, and that's true. That's the three things that you teach there. Well, you say don't do it, you say do it. I'm a little bit in the middle. I say, but please do it, but do it thoughtfully. Exactly. And first think about, is there actually an audience, and what are the users' needs? Do people really need that? And if yes, what do they need it? And is there a market for that kind? And because we see journalism startups which sound great, that these journalists who founded it did it for basically themselves. Mm-hmm. And then there is a very small market, and they usually fail. And those who do market research, they do need finding, and they also have, which is something I learned actually at the JSK Fellowship at Stanford, that they do these innovation cycles where they try something out, they get user feedback, they quickly fail. That's and fail fast, exactly. And then they learn from it, and they don't overthink it, but they have a strategy because they know their users' needs. And these organizations which really focus on the users' needs are usually the ones which at the end get our grants, because they are usually the ones who can get an audience to believe in them, to have credibility in the audience, and then you can monetize this credibility with advertising and with all these other models out there. But this is really the core. Is there an audience, and what are its needs?
Great, thank you all. So I have a bunch of questions, but this is the point where I really want to welcome all of you in the room to come here. We have mics and ask our panelists any burning question that you have, anything. Yeah, so there's already the first one. So let's start from you. Why don't you just say quickly your name and ask our panelists.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Sonia, coming from Slovenia, and thank you for a very, very interesting discussion. I'm also founder, journalist founder. I found a newspaper for children. So, okay, we can discuss it whether they are interested, but yeah, we get the feedback that they want to be informed and they need to be informed. But my question is for you, and you know, when you mentioned the firecrackers and the smokes, so can you maybe elaborate just a little bit how to prevent that it will not all end up in the smoke? Thank you.
For me, I was forced to sit down and take everything that I had on my head on a Google Doc to start. It's like, what is my mission, my vision, my values? Then I work on a 3-year strategic planning that sounds very fancy, but it's not. It's basically, what do you want to do and how are you going to do it and how much money do you need to work? And then I was working on the budget, and I was very cheap when I work on my first budget, because it's like, what the minimum that I need is like, this for like salaries, this for technology, and I can do this with this and that. And it's like, no, my advisor told me, it's like, just put your budget the way that it should be, because things are not getting cheaper and you're gonna grow and you're gonna need more. So it's like, work on your budget and add the tax, something like that, so you, a little bit, and then work on your dream budget and the realistic one that you need. Then when I had that, I went to a lawyer, and it's like, do you have a trademark? No. Are you registered as a nonprofit or a for-profit? We are an LLC, fiscally sponsored. We operate as a nonprofit, but we do have the LLC that is the owner of Conecta Arizona, the logos, and everything. Then, when I got that, I went to an attorney and got the media liability insurance, the errors and corrections insurance. And now I'm in the part that Conecta Arizona was just me for 3.5 years, and now we're hiring people. It's like, how do I hire people? What kind of policies of HR do I need? Then I have people in United States, Mexico, Argentina, Venezuela, Ecuador. So how do I make sure that I'm fulfilling the laws and requirements of those places? How do I pay them? And then because I'm basically a contractor still of mine, and then I had to pay a lot of taxes, and it's like, damn, I hate it. I don't want to give any more money to this government. But those are the things that I didn't know how to do before, so I hire an accountant. And now I'm hiring somebody who's going to help me with the HR. That is it's like, for example, I hated when I work on the TV station that I only had 10 days of vacation. And it was like, I needed to ask those days with a month before. They had too many procedures. Now I get why they do have too many procedures. But then it's like, I want to do the same, but with the heart. So I'm in the growing pains because I'm only 5. But I think like doing the things step by step. There is one, I don't know if it's available here in Europe, but the Listening Post Collective, that is a nonprofit that works with internews, they have a playbook. And the playbook helps you not just to do the information needs assessment in your communities, and it got small grants attached to them, but it actually like has like a playbook of the things that you need to do if you're launching something, but I think it's tailored to the US. I have no idea, but maybe some of the things are the same for every country.
Thank you. We have a question here. Here, yeah. Oh, somebody, okay. Well, so you're next.
Hello, good morning. I would like to ask Maritza about how you started a business from being from Mexico on a visa in the US, because I work as an AI prompt engineer in New England, Boston, and I know how it is difficult to start something of your own when you're on a visa, and you are seen as an employee, not like as a starter or like an entrepreneur, right?
And that's just the legal part of it, but your emotional toll is very hard. I remember I was on a work visa that I needed a sponsor in the US, and that sponsor, every time that he wanted me to do another thing or more things, I said, it's like, that's not my job description. I have no more bandwidth to work with this. And they told me, it's like, oh, your visa's about to expire. And it was like, and I went to HR, and HR told me, it's like, this is how things work, you're a sponsor. So what I did is I study a lot, and I wanted to prove the US that I deserve my place to be there. So I went from a TD visa to a TN visa to an H-1B visa, then an O-1 visa. Then I won like a bunch of awards, many, many awards, just to prove the US that I was worth it to be there. So I could self-sponsor for the green card, waited 5 years, and then I'm finally, till like last November, a US citizen. It took me 18 years to do the things the right way. I don't know if we should be clapping in 2025, but, well, I'll always have Mexico. No, but the thing is, like, in that moment, I had to always be proving everybody that I deserve something. And I realized at the end that I was trying to prove myself that I was worth it at the same time. And that's very, I'm thinking a bad word, but fill the blank. It's very bad that you need to be proven and always to justify that you're here and here. What I did, in the US, you can create an LLC, like a company, even though you're not, you don't have a social security number, but they give you like a tax number. That's how I did it at the beginning. But everything changed when I learned that what I bring to the table is not just enough, it's more than enough, and that they need me, and that I'm valuable. And I learned to negotiate from a position of power and not of need, even though inside I was dying, because it's like, I can be in Mexico tomorrow because of the things that I'm saying. I'm still like double thinking everything that I'm saying over here, because I'm going back to the US tomorrow morning, and it's the first time that I'm gonna like fly with my American passport. Very exciting, very frightening at the same time. But it's like that, those are the things that we need to change. It can be done, but it takes a lot of resilience. And I hate the word resilience, because obviously it is about how strong we are as people, but actually that we always have to be facing threats. And that's very, again, fill the blank. Yeah, it can be done. And happy to help and give you my information so we can have this conversation.
Hi, my name is Sergey. I'm from Ukraine. I'm also a journalist entrepreneur, making a media which is called European Pravda. And in my case, well, it's more than a year or so now, and I managed to combine editor journalistic activity with entrepreneurship. And thank you for presentations that, well, has shown me that challenges are similar. Sometimes we have to kind of divide ourselves in several roles. And could you please share your thoughts? When do you start like distributing, when you feel that some of managerial job have to be distributed because there is no other way? Because we all understand that for journalists, it's important to stay journalists as long as possible. And especially for small media, when we sell ourselves as faces. Well, sometimes I hate grant managing, but I have to. And I understand that I will do that better than any hired person, because I know the substance of media better. How do you feel that, well, I have to give it up and to give it to someone else? Thank you.
I did it as well, but then I realized, that I don't need to write the whole grant, for example. And I hired someone who is fundraiser, grant writer, and we are doing it the way that, we are talking at the beginning, what we want to do, and then it's her who's writing the grant because she has the input. So you don't need to hire someone and just rely, now you know everything, you don't know anything about media, so at the end it's going to be me who's going to write it. That's not the case, you know. You can really hire someone who would just, you know, all the buzzwords, you know, and have a good definition of vision and mission and can, you know, put together a budget. And you can just save the time by them putting into the grant application the things that are already there. And you just do the input for the new things that you want to do. So just hire someone as soon as possible, you know, that's my advice.
For us, something that it was very, I don't have a development person yet, but we have subcontracted people to work on that. But one of the things that are very important is like, you can only sell your product if you like are in love with it. So make that people feel in love with the work that we're doing, so it does translate on your grant writing. So for example, in our values is bringing back joy to journalism. So I cannot have somebody who's mad with the world all the time writing those grant proposals because they don't align. And then they see me like, good morning, cafecito. There is a disconnection. So you need to, on your onboarding process, that I don't have one, but I'm working on one. On your onboarding process, you need to actually make, like, this is our mission, this is our vision, everything, just put it on the rate and just say it so many times that they think that that's your mantra when you're working on it. And another thing that I learned when I was working with those contractors as developments is like, make your implicit norms explicit. It's like, don't assume that they know everything. Don't assume that they should be working the way that you work. It's explain to them exactly what you need, what do you want to accomplish, do the research on the funder that you're gonna submit that proposal to, look at the funding priorities. Those funding priorities change quite often, right? What are the words that are trending right now on the funding? Just give us insight.
Sustainability.
Oh, of course.
Resilience, sustainability.
Resilience.
Like adding, like, if there is any chance you can hire an operation manager, I think that's helpful. And I don't follow my own advice here, but I mean, I would. And because does it really bring value to your organization if you, as the editor-in-chief and the CEO, also write the grant proposals and really deal with the daily operations of the administration side? Maybe not. Maybe someone else can help you with that. And maybe it doesn't have to be a full-time role, but maybe it can be like 20 hours or something for a start. I think that would help you to be more effective on the content and also on the leadership side.
Thank you so much for this wonderful panel. I'm really, really enjoying it. And my name is Zahra Nader. I'm an Afghan journalist. And here is my friend Zahra Joya. We both started our own media organization. We are covering women's rights, human rights in Afghanistan. And we are trying to take on the Taliban. And the story is that we started doing this because we wanted to tell a story. The story was our story. But then it's like, okay, let's start the media. And then people would care. We're going to let them know about this. And they're going to come and support us. And all the things you're saying, we experienced that, and it's like, oh no, it's not that, you know, like we need to do much, much more work. And the space is very, very difficult, the space that we are working, the stories we are working with journalists in Afghanistan who the Taliban are trying to make them visible. They cannot go to school, they cannot go to work, they cannot be seen alone on the street, they would be arrested. So that's the experience of my journalists in Afghanistan. So my question for you, as a founders, people who experienced this before, how do you take care of yourself? Because I know you have been like, as a people who found this, you should be doing everything, especially at the beginning. You should be the manager, you should be the writer, you should be, as you're saying, the grant writers. So is there anything that you did take care of yourself that we, those of us who are following, can follow that? That would be great. Thank you so much again for this amazing panel.
This is a great question. And I need to jump in and say, you know, one of the ways that the JSK Fellowship approaching to many of our fellows is thinking about how do we take care of ourselves. And the fellowship year is, in a way, helping that?
So I came to Perugia for 24 hours. That for me is like, no internet for 10 hours in my flight was fantastic because I could disconnect. I haven't found the balance. It's like I work all day long. I'm a workaholic, I can say. And I raise twins. And I don't sleep. I'm always high on caffeine, I don't sleep, and I haven't found the balance. But I know now that
Not recommended, okay.
Not recommend. Everything that I say is like, don't do it. No, but now that I'm building a team, I'm very worried about those things because I don't want them to think that this is a sustainable way of living, because it's not. I'm very energetic and I can do it just because it's part of my personality. But then when you have people working with you, you start thinking about the way that you do things. And then, for example, it's like setting those like explicit norms, saying it's like, if I text you at 3 a.m, don't text me back. I know, it's like, that's how my brain works. Those are my spaces where I'm doing like more creative work or whatever. And the other thing is like actually having fun with people that doesn't work in journalism. It is so good. I have never appreciated more my friends that talk about diapers than now. It is having a break about the breaking news, the tariff, that everything, and then it's like, oh my God, he doesn't want to eat apples. It's like, oh, that's so cute. I need that in my life. So actually try to find people who's not part of your day-to-day so you can actually disconnect and have like, and then you keep going. But that's the only thing.
It's a very serious question, and I'm not like really the person who give advice on that. I haven't shared that, but when we started Media Forward Fund, and we registered it in May and we launched it on July 1st with our first call, and for 3 months I couldn't move my right arm. It was just only working from morning to like it was really like that. And so I did 2 things that would not happen anymore. I now have a work phone and a personal phone, which I never had before. And the work phone is off on the weekends. Because, I mean, it's a fund. What's going to happen on the weekend? It's not a newsroom, like some politician will step down and I have to immediately rush to the newsroom and manage all the reporting. No, on the weekend, the work phone is off. And I schedule sports in my calendar, and this is an appointment. I cannot cancel it. I have to do it, and well, it starts to help, but it's not solved yet, that problem.
Okay, I'm going to be brief. I run in the morning, try to sleep a lot. I have a good friend. Yeah, great. I have a good friends, and when the situation...
Compared to Maritza not sleeping, just wanted to support this.
I can sleep 10 hours easily, really. And also when it was really unbearable and I was burning out, I applied for a fellowship and took 1 year off from my life at Stanford, at JSK.
Yeah, so Pavla just finished last year. Our fellowship. And so I'm looking at the clock. I don't think that we have much more time. Let me just say something. If you're interested in continuing this conversation, on Saturday, we're hosting Aperitivo, 5:30. It's on one of the side programs. Please come to that. There's going to be a bunch of JSK alumni over there. And also, I'll be there. And my colleague in the back, Alberto Mendoza here, is also his way. Yeah. So if you want to talk to one of us about a program, we're here during the conference. So please come to do that. And I don't think that we have more time for questions. Am I right? Right. No time for questions. So let me just do one last one. You guys remember that? You know, we started with the sort of notion of the legacy media and the breaking point. So I want to ask you really kind of quick. So if the entire legacy media died tomorrow, I know, what or who wouldn't you save?
So it means we will survive.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Should we say names?
Or let me rephrase this. Maybe what practices or institutions are better left behind us in this reinvention of journalism?
Marketing department.
Well, we are not the World Wildlife Fund, so we don't protect those who are, well, some of them will die. And those who have an extractive business model, who just used up all the profits in the last 20, 30, 40 years and made the owners rich, and now there is no money left for innovation and for investing in good journalism and in hiring journalists and making good models and subscription models, well, sorry. You might not survive, and that's maybe the market.
Maritza, quick.
News organizations are causing harm to our communities. That's for me.
All right, thank you all so much for coming. We really had a great time.